The average American doesn't have tens of thousands sitting in their bank account. They have about $8,000, not 80,000, not a safety net, just 8. If your checking and savings combined are higher than that right now, statistically speaking, you're already ahead of half the country. Let that sink in, because we're constantly told the economy is strong. Stocks hit record highs, jobs are supposedly everywhere, inflation is under control. So why does it still feel like you're running on a financial treadmill that never stops? Because the real story isn't in the headlines. Over the last few months, data from consumer finance reports and federal surveys revealed something uncomfortable. Nearly 7 out of 10 Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And this isn't just minimum wage workers. It includes engineers, managers, six-figure earners. Money comes in, rent, food, insurance, subscriptions, car payments swallow it, and by the next payday, the account balance is back near zero. This is no longer about being bad with money. It's about a system that makes stability extremely difficult. Here's where it gets worse. Almost 1 in 4 adults has no emergency savings at all. No buffer, no backup plan, no margin for error. A flat tire, a medical bill, a broken appliance, any of those can instantly turn into a financial crisis. Not because people are reckless, but because the cost of basic survival leaves nothing left over. And retirement? More than half of households don't have dedicated retirement savings. They aren't planning decades ahead, they're trying to survive the current month. Now let's talk about inflation, the part politicians love to spin. Yes, the inflation rate slowed down, but prices never went back. Compared to 2020, everyday expenses are still roughly 25% higher. Groceries cost more, housing costs more, insurance costs more, utilities cost more. Meanwhile, most wages increased only a fraction of that, so the gap between income and living expenses keeps stretching wider. That pressure shows up in public sentiment. About 1/3 of Americans believe their financial situation will get worse next year. That's not pessimism, that's pattern recognition. We now live in a two-speed economy. If you own stocks, property, or businesses, recent years may feel great. Your net worth grows on paper. But if you rely on a paycheck, trade hours for dollars, and pay monthly bills, you're falling behind. When people are asked how much money would make them feel rich, the average answer is around $2.5 million in net worth. Not to live extravagantly, just to finally feel secure. For retirement alone, people estimate they need over $1.2 million. But here's the problem. Averages lie. They're pulled up by wealthy outliers. The typical person is nowhere near that. Median retirement savings for many age groups barely reach 10 figures. Even near retirement age, the typical balance isn't enough to generate meaningful monthly income. Now layer in debt. Gen Z carries tens of thousands. Millennials often exceed 6 figures. Gen X holds the largest debt load. Even retirees still owe money. And credit cards? The average balance sits around $7,000. Almost half of cardholders don't pay it off each month. With interest rates above 20%, that's not borrowing, that's slow financial bleeding. A few years of minimum payments can double the cost of everyday purchases. Banks profit when people are trapped, and people use credit because they're stretched thin, not because they're irresponsible. Saving used to be normal. Now the average savings rate is barely 3 to 4% of income. Experts recommend 5 times that. The issue isn't laziness, it's math. Housing is the biggest pressure point. Rent consumes over 1/3 of income for many households. Mortgage payments at today's rates eat up even more. People technically own assets, but they can't access cash. You can't pay groceries with home equity. So what we end up with is a strange reality. Asset values rise, quality of life falls. This is the modern squeeze. Corporations benefit from stagnant wages. Landlords benefit from rising rents. Banks benefit from consumer debt. Meanwhile, workers get less breathing room every year. But there is one thing you still control: the gap between what you earn and what you spend. That gap, even if small, becomes your emergency fund, your freedom buffer, your exit plan. It won't change overnight. It may take years, but the alternative is permanent dependence on the next paycheck. Stop comparing yourself to people who benefited from lucky timing and asset booms. You're not competing with them. You're building stability for yourself. And that's a fight worth taking seriously.